Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel. Indie April is officially among us, so of course we're going to kick it off by talking about my TBR for the month. If you don't know what Indie April is, it is a readathon that I am hosting that is all about focusing on indie authors, picking up indie books and self-published books throughout the month to bring some attention to those authors and spread the love for smaller books. So I will have the announcement linked down below if you want to get all the information about this readathon. There is a little bingo board and some prompts if you would like to participate. If not, that's totally fine. You can participate without doing the prompts or the bingo board, but that video will be linked down below. You can get all of the information. So of course I'm going to be talking about everything that I am hoping to read for the Indie April readathon. But I will say I really wanted to do the challenge as it is my readathon where every single thing that I read in April is an indie book, but there are some other things that I am reading for, so there will be a few books that are not indie books, so I want to talk about those first, get that out of the way, and then we'll move into Indie April. So first of all, I am working on a reading vlog right now that was supposed to go up in March, but it didn't happen. I'm reading a book series for that. So I've already read the first 3 in March. There are just 2 more books in the series that I need to read before I can upload that vlog. So first and foremost, I want to get that out of the way so I can get back on track with all of my YouTube plans. So there's 2 books. I'm not going to tell you what 2 books those are, but those are not indie books and they will be read by me in April. Then I will also most likely be reading Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home with Brooklyn as we continue our buddy read of the series. And then I also have an arc that I have to read in April. It is called Devouring Tomorrow. The subtitle says Fiction from the Future of Food, and I think this is kind of like speculative, maybe some sci-fi leaning, horror leaning short stories. So I remember it sounded really interesting when I initially read about it on NetGalley and requested the arc. That was months ago at this point, but I'm still excited to pick that up, but it is not an indie book. Those are my few exceptions. I think that's really all the ones that I'm going to be reading that aren't indie. Everything else will be. So let us start by looking at the prompts that I have to fulfill with books. So these are from the bingo board. The first one that I have written down is an author that you have enjoyed before to read from again. So I made this prompt with a very specific author in mind. If you've been watching me for a while, this probably won't be a surprise, but that is Mr. David Sodergren. I have read, how many books of his have I read now? 4 technically, I think, but he has a lot. They're all available on Kindle Unlimited, and he is a fantastic indie author, indie horror author, and I'm really excited to read some more from him. I don't know specifically what title. I was kind of thinking about picking up his newer release. I don't remember what that's called, but he has a lot of options for me to choose from, so I will look around. Ideally, I'd like to read more than just one from him this month, but we'll see what happens there. To follow that up, we have to read from a new to you author. This is somebody that I've had my eye on for a while, and I have 2 options that I could choose for the Indie April readathon. I want to read from Mia Ballard. So she has We All Rot Eventually, which is a novella on Kindle Unlimited, or Sugar, which used to be on Kindle Unlimited and is no longer. So I really want to read that one though. I might purchase it for my Kindle just to read it there, but those are both self-published as well, and those are horror that are weird leaning and gory and nasty. Possibly, we'll see. I really want to read her new release, also Shy Girl, but I don't think that one is indie published. I think that one is with a traditional publisher, if I remember correctly. Either way, I will be reading something from Mia Ballard this month. Then we have a book outside of your comfort zone. So I was searching around some of my options, and this first one, I have 2 options that I could read for this. The first one I think I'm definitely gonna read because I'm really excited, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carl. I don't have the author's name in front of me. I think it's like Matt something. But this one has been making its rounds on the internet recently, and I remember seeing it and thinking it was very intriguing, and I think this is kind of like a sci-fi fantasy, like very like action-packed sort of sci-fi, which isn't always what I read, but I'm trying to read more in those genres. So this is slightly outside of my comfort zone, but I feel like I have high hopes for it. I think I will like it. And then the other option I have for this is called Defying Evil, which I also don't have the author's name in front of me, but this is, I think, like a dark romance thriller. I'm not entirely sure. I heard like one person talk about it on BookTube at one point, and I just added it because it was on Kindle Unlimited. So we'll see if I get to that one, but it is another contender for this prompt. The next prompt is to read a diverse book. So this is reading a book with characters that have different identities than your own, or reading from an author with a different identity than your own, if that makes sense. So if I'm a white person, maybe I'll read from an author of color, or read a book that has a main character of color. Or if you are somebody who identifies as heterosexual, maybe you pick up something from an author who is not, or following characters who are not. You get the idea. So I'm not sure which one of these I want to read exactly for this prompt. Maybe I'll read both, I don't know. But we have Fluids, and the other book is called Girl Flesh, which, once again, why do I not have the author's name in front of me? I'm very unprepared. I haven't done a TBR video in a long time, so I'm like, how do I do this again? But this is by a trans author, and I'm pretty sure Fluids focuses on trans characters. These are both extreme horror books. So I will be reading one of those for the prompt. And then the other two prompts, we have a book with less than 500 ratings and a book that you choose based off of the cover. These are both to be determined for me. I don't think I'll have a really difficult time finding one with less than 500 ratings. I just haven't looked around to figure out which one exactly I want to read just yet. And then the cover pick, obviously I just want that to come to me organically throughout the month. I just want to find one and pick it up from the cover. So those are all of the things that I want to for sure read for the prompts of Indie April. But some other things, first of all, I have 2 reading vlogs planned. The first one I'm going to do is an extreme horror reading vlog. I haven't done this in a while, and I wanted to read some more extreme horror this year anyways, and what better time to do it than right now, because I would say most of the things, not most of the things on Kindle Unlimited, but a large amount of books on Kindle Unlimited do fall in the extreme horror category. So I'll definitely have a lot of options. Off the top of my head, ones that I want to read, 2 that are by Carl John Lee, who, if you didn't know, is the same author as David Sodergren. It's the same person, just a pseudonym. There is Psychic Teenage Bloodbath, and then Horror House of Perversion, that I have read the first books, but there is a sequel to both of those that I would like to read as well, and those are novellas. And extreme horror, I feel like, usually goes pretty quick anyways, depending what type of extreme horror you're reading. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to be reading for that specific reading vlog. If you have any extreme horror indie published recommendations, let me know down below. I just have to search through my Kindle Unlimited list and see what I want to read from there. Then the second reading vlog that I'm going to be doing is an emoji generator is going to choose what I read for a week. So I have a huge list of things from Kindle Unlimited that are indie books that I can choose from at any point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an emoji wheel and go through it, and then just figure out what correlates. I don't know, I'll figure that out when the time comes. But some of the other things that are higher priority for me on my TBR. So the first one is called World of Wonders, in Praise of Fireflies, Whale Sharks, and Other Astonishments. This is by Amy. I'll have to look up how to pronounce that last name, but this is a nonfiction book that I've had my eye on for a while. It sounds really interesting, talking about different animals, and it is relatively short as well. The next one that is a higher priority for me is called Soft Targets. This is by Carson Winter. I don't know exactly what this one is about, but I remember hearing about it, and it was kind of like a weird, trippy, sort of brutal horror. It says this is about 2 guys in an office setting. It says they discover a loophole that makes some days less real than others, less permanent, and start to act out their violent fantasies without fear of reprisal. Why shouldn't they? Tomorrow everything will go back to normal with no one the wiser but them. So it definitely sounds like it's going to be slightly mind-bending, maybe psychological. Sounds really, really interesting. The next one that I really want to pick up is called Daughter's Drawings by Nick Botic. This is one that started on, I think, the No Sleep subreddit, kind of creepypasta type of thing, which is something that I talked about before that I really enjoy, because I was definitely one of those kids that used to read creepypastas all night. So this says, it was during a pit stop at a rural diner that we heard these words: "I think someone broke into your car," and began the years-long terror that would change our lives forever. Someone had indeed broken into our car, but they had ignored the laptops and tablets and luggage. All they took was our daughter's most prized possession, a folder full of artwork. We didn't know what to think when Katie's work started coming back to us, one slightly amended piece of art at a time. But when this connoisseur of our 6-year-old drawings creations began bringing the subjects of her drawings, okay, whoever wrote the synopsis needs to go back, began bringing the subjects of her drawings to life in twisted, disturbing ways, we knew that we were dealing with a danger worse than any of us could have ever imagined. I don't know, it sounds interesting. I've heard some good things about it. Like I said, just the whole creepypasta Reddit vibe has me excited for this one. Another one that I definitely want to pick up in April is The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is on Kindle Unlimited, and I did check is indie published. This is a like romantasy that I've heard a lot of things about. This one is pretty popular, and I've heard a lot of good things, even from people that aren't typically fantasy or romantasy readers. So it was kind of on my radar before then, and then hearing from people that have very similar tastes as me, picking up this book and giving it a try and really enjoying it. Now I'm like, okay, I need to read it. And so the fact that I can read it for Indie April makes me very excited. And then I have a whole entire list of other books and other authors that I might be interested in. Some authors we can go through: Steve Stredd, Adam Neville, Jeff Strand, TJ Payne, McKay Watson, Chandler Morrison, Sammy Scott, Jeremy Ray, Andrew Van Way, Abe Moss, Megan Stockton, just a whole bunch of names if you've heard of any of those. These are authors, some of them I've read from before, some of them I've never read from before, but I've heard a lot about and have had them on my radar or on my TBR for a while, so I'm definitely excited to pick up some more from them. Not every single book by those authors is an indie published book, but a good amount of them are. There is also The Least of My Scars by Stephen Graham Jones, which was indie published, and we all know I love Stephen Graham Jones. This is one of his, I think this is like a extreme horror one by him, so I'm definitely excited to try to give that one a try. There is Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez, I believe. I read one book by that author that was like a Christmas horror novella, but this is a series that I've heard good things about. I think it's 3 books, so if I can pick that one up, I would love to, because I meant to read that last year in October, and I do think it takes place around Halloween, so that's still a good idea. If I don't get to it this time, maybe I'll get to it this next October. We'll see. Then I also have 3 other nonfiction books that I am looking forward to picking up. These are metaphysical books. They are all by Dolores Cannon, if anybody's heard of her. I have read one of her books, The Convoluted Universe Book 1, but there are 5 books in that like series, if you want to call it that. So I want to pick up the second one, and then I also want to pick up, I think it's called The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth, I think is what that one's called, and then her other book called Between Death and Life. Like I said, these are metaphysical, not books for everybody, but books for me, and I'm really excited to pick those up. These are books that I wanted to read anyways, regardless of if they were indie or not, although I did have a good feeling that they probably were indie, and when I looked them up, I found that they are published by Dolores Cannon's own like publishing house, or whatever you want to call it. So really excited to read those. And that's really about it. I don't have a lot of set plans for Indie April. As you guys can tell, there are some books that I'm like 100% going to read, but for most of the month, I just kind of want to be able to mood read and pick up what I want, as long as it's indie published. I do have some recommendation videos coming your ways. So the first one that will be up is sci-fi recommendations on Kindle Unlimited. Then I will have horror recommendations on Kindle Unlimited, and then I will do romance recommendations on Kindle Unlimited. So these are going to be like broad Kindle Unlimited recommendations, but I will make a dedicated section for indie books within those categories, if that makes sense. So if you are looking for those recommendations specifically for Indie April, I will make sure that there is a timestamped section that goes over all of the indie books. So I don't know if all of that made sense, but those are my reading plans and my video plans for Indie April. Comment down below if you are participating in the Readathon, and let me know one or two of the books that you are hoping to pick up in the month. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you if you are participating in the Readathon. It means a lot to me, and I think it's just a great way to spread some love within the community. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys very soon.